Okay, Vice Chair, we're live. You could start.
Okay. I'd like to bring this Airport Advisory Board meeting to order Thursday, July 16th at 12:43 by my watch. And the first item on the agenda here is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll go ahead and recite that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the acknowledgement of guests. I see Deidre Irick on here. Oh, wait a minute, she's a board member. I see Kent Fryer and Mike Kading I see on here. Everybody else is, well, let me acknowledge the people that I see on my screen. If they want to say anything, raise your hand or turn your mic on if you need to say anything. There's me, Adrian Guzman, the host, Annie Hume, co-host, Deidre Irick, Jerry Clark, Kent Frere, Lorianne Romero, Mike Kading, Dan Prevette from Prevette Aviation, Ted Leonard, Wes Baker, and Councilor Flores. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. I'm not sure what to do here. We normally had these people ID themselves. Since I've already done that, I don't think we need to do that. I've acknowledged the guests that I see here. If I'm not doing this right, Andy, let me know.
You're right on track, Mr. Chair.
Okay. The next thing is review and consider approval of meeting minutes. And I've got something to say about that, but if you have something to say about it, please do so.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'm sharing my screen here with everybody. Oh, and here are the minutes for the advisory board meeting from June 18th. Mr. Chair, one of the things that I want to mention and make sure it's on the record is that board member Leonard provided a, let's see here, he provided a email that I want to make sure is shown on here and make sure that it's part of the meeting minutes for consideration. In his email, it's dated 13 July. He sent out basically probably a concern, I would say, that there were some significant a significant number of errors that he found in the minutes. And so, Mr. Chair, without going item by item through all of these, what I would suggest for us to be able to move forward is that that these will be submitted to staff and we will review them and make edits accordingly, and that this email will be included as an attachment to this month's minutes, just so that we make sure that everything is covered from the standpoint of Open Meetings Act. If there isn't any objection to that, then that's how we'd like to proceed with these proposed edits, and then we can go on from there as far as any other. Did everybody see that? Where's my? Is everybody seeing this email here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
so then that's what my recommendation, Mr. Chair, so that we can make sure that we don't violate Open Meetings Act or anything like that, is we can have them as an attachment to this month's minutes. But I don't know, Mr. Leonard, Member Leonard, if you have any other comments on your email.
Okay, I'll be right there.
I don't have any further comments at this time.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, then if there's consensus on moving forward in that regard, we can. And then we can also take any other comments from the board as far as any other proposed changes.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, this is Councilor Flores. I don't know if you can see my hand. I'm
Yep, I see
physically,
him.
I'm raising it. Okay. Thank you, but thank you so much. But and thank you, Ted, for catching all those errors. But I'm looking in terms of the how we proceed on this. Can't they be incorporated by reference at this meeting, since we do have a review of minutes or approval of minutes on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, they would be. Basically, what we would do is we would say that the minutes are approved as amended by this email from Member Leonard.
Great. Okay, thank you. And thank you again, Mr. Leonard.
okay, and Annie, I'd like to throw in a comment. This is Ross Palmer, Vice Chair. As Ted said in his comments, what he wrote down was not all inclusive. It's almost like every other sentence needs to be redone. My idea originally, until you said what you said, was to reject these minutes as written and send them back for a rewrite. Maybe that's not legal to do that, but there are more errors in there than, I mean, nothing against Mr. Leonard. I'm sure he knows this, but there are more errors than what he wrote down in diction. And I was at that meeting and I couldn't make heads or tails out of those minutes. So I can't imagine what somebody would think that hadn't been at the meeting to try and read them.
Sure. Mr. Chair, it absolutely is the prerogative of the board to vote no. Basically, you would have a motion to approve the minutes, and once that motion is made and seconded, then everyone can vote no, and that would that would disapprove of the minutes, and then we could
Okay.
then we could go back and redo that.
Okay. So
Andy, can you
do
hear
I
me?
hear a motion to approve the minutes? Oh, okay. I see Mr. Darden is here. John, I don't know how much you heard of this, but we were just talking about the minutes and how bad they were. Were you privy to that dialogue?
No, but go ahead, and you're running the meeting right now. I can pitch in after you've done taking care of this. I'm still trying to figure out why my video is not coming up, but in any event, go ahead.
Okay. Well, John, my comment was the minutes were so badly written that my recommendation would be to reject the minutes. But since we have to do something with them, we can't do it that way. So what I'm asking for, in other words, we can have somebody move and second that we approve the minutes, and then everybody vote no. And I guess that's the way we have to do it. And John, I think I see you now, so you got your video going.
Right. Well, go ahead with this line item, and I apologize.
Okay. Okay.
Technology's messed me up.
Well, it did me too. It took me a while to get on here too. I was late. So do I hear a motion to approve the minutes with the corrections?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
this is just a point of information. I'm just the city council liaison. I'm not on the board. I don't know if I don't have a vote on this, but I think Mr. Hume's recommendation that they not be accepted is the route to go, because then they can be reviewed and the transcription has to probably be rewritten, and then the amendments, and hopefully the retranscription would have less errors. And I think that would be the best way to follow it, because and I don't have a how would you say, a photographic memory or audio memory to recollect everything that was said. And if we go by accepting them based on what Mr. Leonard submitted, it would be akin to or to rewriting them. So I think we have to tread very carefully here on how we proceed. And that's just my opinion on that. But I think what Mr. Hume recommended is probably the safest way to go insofar as the Open Meetings Act. We can't rewrite everything because you too, Mr. Chair, Acting Chair, Vice Chair, saw that there were errors. So.
Okay. Well, thanks for that input, Councilor Flores. You are certainly more versed in this kind of protocol than I am. Okay, so Mr. Hume, do I need to put what you said in the form of a motion or just take your recommendation? How do we proceed here? I'm not sure.
Sure. Well, right now, we are waiting on a motion to accept the minutes. And so it seems kind of counterintuitive, but we have to work in the positive form. So we need a motion and a second to approve the minutes. And then everybody, if you don't want to do them, then you vote no. So we still need the motion and the second. And then if you want to reject them, you vote no.
Okay.
To get it on the
Okay,
table,
so-
I move approval, just so we can get to vote and move on to the next item.
So motion by Chair Darden. Do we have a second?
Second, Jerry Clark.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded, Mr. Chair. And so I'll call for the vote. Board Member Clark,
Nay.
Chair Darden,
Nay.
Vice Chair Palmer,
Nay.
Member Leonard,
No,
Member Irick.
No, sorry, I was trying to get him muted.
Okay. Member Privet
No.
and Member Baker.
no.
Okay, so the motion fails. So Mr. Chair, what we'll do is we will go back to the minutes and have them rewritten and have them written according to a better representation of what was said at the meeting. So with that, now that Mr. Chair Palmer is on the line, we can move forward and go on with the next item on the agenda.
All right, well, this is John Darden, and I apologize to everybody. I started 10 minutes early and ended up 15 minutes late. Discussion items, National Guard Readiness Center update.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. This is actually a really quick update. In talking with Mr. Archibek, who is the representative from Armstrong Consulting, who is they're heading up the project. The site work is done for the National Guard Center, so that's really good news. Right now, they are wrapping up a lot of the interior work, so it's not quite ready for occupation, being occupied. They are looking at being ready soon. I will say that I'm waiting to hear back on hopefully a proposed date. I don't have that handy, Mr. Chair, but hopefully we're looking at it happening very soon. I know that the Guard is certainly excited about moving into their new building soon.
So are there any questions from members of the board?
And I don't see any hands raised either, Mr. Chair, too. So.
All right, the next item is airport manager's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I can go into a little more detail. I realize I tried to get this out a little bit earlier in time to review prior to the meeting. But I really want to focus on a few items here that are really critical to where we're at with regard to sort of what we've accomplished this last fiscal year and what we have coming up next fiscal year. We have some updates on our FAA inspection, as well as some of our specific projects that are going on right now. So in FY 2020, really a huge emphasis was placed on pavement maintenance, rehab, and reconstruction, because that was really identified as a very serious lacking. Boy, my brain isn't working. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. It was the quality of the pavement was really lacking, and let's just put it that way. And so we completed several rehab and maintenance projects across the airfield. So we certainly the exterior roads were rehabbed. We had a lot of maintenance done on runway 826. All of the taxiways had some type of maintenance that was done on them. And many of the taxi lanes and aprons had rehab or maintenance done on them as well. And of course, right now we have the big reconstruction project going on the terminal apron. Additionally, there were a lot of very important administrative projects that were done. For instance, we completed an update to the airport emergency plan. That was really important for us, especially from the standpoint of the FAA and our compliance with Part 139. We, in addition to doing the actual maintenance that I just mentioned, we now have a maintenance management program. So what we'll be able to do is look out years ahead and say,
We lost you, Andy.
Yeah, Andy, are you there? Are you up flying someplace? All right. Can somebody call Andy, or can we? Let me just get on the phone.
am I back?
Are you
All right.
back, Andy?
I think I'm back.
All right, go ahead and proceed.
Sorry about that. We will try this again.
Well, let's not go back through everything, but okay,
Sure.
if there's some highlights that we want to go through, I'm not
Sure.
sure where we lost you.
So let's I was sort of going over the list of things that we accomplished this year. Let's jump to our coming fiscal year. We just started our new fiscal year. We still have some pavement issues that we need to address. We need to find out, you know, the best ways to address them. Some of the simpler maintenance techniques really aren't going to be sufficient for them, and so we need to go and find out, you know, what's going to be the best ways of addressing some of the bigger problems on some of our taxi lanes, particularly. Also, we're really excited about two significant construction projects. One is a project called the Purchase Power Agreement, and what that's going to do is it's going to be installing several solar panel installations throughout the city, and at the airport we're going to get a couple of those. The one that directly impacts us is going to replace the south shade structure in the parking lot. So we're going to replace that, and in its place we're going to have the solar panels, which will provide shade, but then also be able to generate electricity for the airfield. The other thing that we're going to do is we are going to do an airfield-wide replacement and upgrade of our lighting with LED fixtures. So right now on Bravo and Charlie, we have LED fixtures that were put in very recently, as you may recall, the work being done out there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through the entire airfield, everything from runway lights, taxiway lights, all the way to our big security lights that we have up. So we're really excited about those two important projects. I'll pause here, Mr. Chair. Are there any questions about what we've accomplished this year and what we're looking forward to for, what we accomplished last year and what we're looking forward to this year?
Any questions from members of the board? If there are, unmute yourself. I'll mute myself, and then Andy can see you and respond. Any questions, Andy, from anybody?
I don't see any hand raises, sir, so we will move on.
Yes, sir.
Arguably the most critical event that we have going on at any year is our Part 139 inspection. And we were due to have that in May. Of course, obviously with current circumstances going on, that didn't happen. But instead, the FAA has sent out that this year's inspection is going to be handled in two parts. The first is that all of our administrative review is going to happen. It needs to be submitted by the week of 7 September. So we already have most of that compiled already because we were ready for our May inspection. And so we will be submitting that paperwork on or before that deadline. The second is the site visit. And that is scheduled for later on in September, probably right around the end of September, that week of 28 September. What I want to assure everybody is we are ready. In fact, we have been ready since May because we were anticipating our inspection then. And I've noted this a couple of times, but I want to stress it. We have what is called Mission Zero. And what that means is we want 0 FAA discrepancies. We want 0 violations of any state regulations like the Environment Department or anything like that. And we want 0 violations of our local ordinances. And that is going to be our goal from now on in always how we operate the airfield and how we maintain the airfield. So bottom line is we will be ready, period. Let's see here. I want to just take a moment. I believe he is he is joined in on the call with Lori. I want to welcome Tom Reynolds to our team. Tom, you've probably seen him a lot over the last year and a half. He's been doing a lot of projects through the Public Works Department on the airfield. And we now have included him on our team directly. And so we're very excited. He brings a tremendous amount of experience and knowledge, and we look forward to having him on our team. So if you're out at the airfield, please say hi and welcome him to LRU. Mr. Chair, I added this per your request to my report as a risk management update. There was an email that was distributed fairly widely that I want to address, and that is that there was an assertion by an aircraft owner that some work that we were doing nearby their aircraft resulted in some tar specks that landed on the aircraft. Without going into details on the investigation and the reporting and all that sort of stuff, because that hasn't been completely wrapped up yet, I want to let everybody know that we have worked through the correct reporting process. I have been in very close contact with risk management on this. I have done a very thorough investigation, and I have provided a draft for review of the report to risk management. The contractor in question has agreed and connected with the aircraft owner. They're waiting on a quote basically for the exterior detailing, but the contractor has been very cooperative about that, and they are willing to cover the cost of that exterior detailing. So once they are able to finish that transaction between the aircraft owner and the contractor, then I can wrap up, finalize my report, and send out a closeout letter. So I wanted to provide that information without going into tremendous amount of detail, Mr. Chair, per request of for an update.
Thank you. Anything else? Any questions about that? Since we all probably got that same email, and just a reminder that I once wanted to have my airplane painted, and I found out how expensive it is. So it isn't when you get tar or something on an airplane. I don't know if it was newly painted or otherwise, but it isn't an inexpensive undertaking that the owner has as far as the exterior of the airplane. Plus, well, I imagine this was not weight and balance stuff, but anyway.
Mr. Chair, it looks like Member Privet has a comment.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just curious as to basic traffic control. Was there sufficient cones and barriers and things to prevent that particular airplane from taxiing through the fresh tar, or what? Was that a slip up on traffic management?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Member Garden, or I'm sorry, Mr. Chair and Member Privet. The proper traffic control was in place. My understanding is that this was not a case of the aircraft actually moving through the area. The owner basically asserted that the technique they were using resulted in some splatter. So that's sort of where the direction that I went off of in my investigation. But no, proper traffic control was used. I think one of the lessons that staff did learn is we need to continue building and growing our communication methods. It turned out that while this person sublets from a tenant on our airfield, but I did not have their direct email address. So I was sending out email updates and they weren't receiving them, big bottom line. So we're going to continue to improve our communication methods. And but as far as my investigation revealed, the contractor followed everything that they were supposed to. So if there is any other comments on that, Mr. Chair, I do want to make maybe two more comments. The first is that I really encourage everybody to take a look at CLC TV on YouTube. I had the privilege of giving a presentation in front of the Economic Development PRC. It is a committee that actually Councilor Flores chairs. And I was able to give a presentation on sort of all the things that we've accomplished over the last couple of years. At that meeting, there was also some preliminary findings and updates from air planners where they were talking about our commercial air service. And it's kind of the first time that we've talked about some of those preliminary findings. So I encourage you to take a look at that. We're going to have some of their information and hopefully get that distributed out to you all as well. I just wanted to encourage you to take a look at it because there were a lot of great questions and good feedback. And Councilor Flores, I don't know if you want to mention anything about that since you're the chair or not, but I don't see anybody's hands up, so I think we can move on and come back to that maybe later on.
Yeah, I really don't have anything to say except that it was a great presentation on the developments at the airport and all the potential the airport has. And so it was good to see how, it's good to know that we're a foreign trade international zone or something, words to that effect. And that we really, the study that was conducted the study that was conducted shows that our airport has a lot of potential, and both as a commercial and then to continue as it has and bring on more businesses there, whether they're related to the airport or not, or the West Mesa industrial area as well. So all of that was very well done, and thank you again, Andy.
My pleasure. And Mr. Chair, it looks like Member Leonard has a comment.
Andy, can you send us a link to that YouTube video?
Yes, sir, absolutely. I will do that.
Thank you.
Sure. My last comment, Mr. Chair, is just about the upcoming projects that we have from our current action plan. Runways 826 and 1230, extending those runways were included on the current action plan. We are very happy to report that the FAA will be funding the first two. We know, we're very confident they'll be funding at least the first two, if not the third phase. First phase is environmental assessment, second phase is design, third phase is construction. But we also received funding through the capital outlay program of the state of New Mexico for funding the first two phases of the runway extension for runway 1230. And so we're very excited about both of those projects. We'll be partnering with Mosen Corbin on working forward on those items. And I believe we do have, we have Kent Fryer. I'm not sure, Kent, if you have anything that you want to mention about those projects, or yeah, go ahead.
I think you stated it just fine. We're about to start on the EA for the 826 extension, and we are we'll probably start on the 1230 later in the year once the grant work gets in place. And then Andy, of course, as you know, you and I have worked carefully then. Since some of these are non-FAA funded projects, we're working those into the FAA CIP to make sure we've got funding arranged in the future for the construction.
Excellent, thank you. And for the record, that was Kent Fryer with Mosen Corbin. They are our airport consultant. So with that, Mr. Chair, the rest of the information is more reminders. Please let me know if there's any questions, and thank you very much for your attention.
Any questions from members of the board? If you're on mute and let Andy let me know.
I don't see hand raised, Mr. Chair, so it looks like we're good.
All right, new LRU log presentation.
Mr. Chair, I apologize. I did not realize that, Word is great about finding mistakes, but if you use the wrong word and spell it correctly, it doesn't recognize that as a mistake. It's supposed to be new LRU logo. I apologize for that. I will do a better job of proofreading that next time. But what I'm going to do is, come on. And there we go. So several months ago, we set out to work on a new logo for the airport. It's part of sort of the broader reshaping, reframing of the identity of the airport, and looking at how we rebrand and making sure that we have a very solid foundation for moving forward in our marketing and attracting new businesses and showing businesses why they need to locate here. So with that, I am really excited about this. And so what we wanted to do, as you actually just mentioned this stuff, update our branding, fresh look, and have that unifying theme that we can just have all over the place. So everyone a few months ago should have received an email that had these 3 items in that email. And these were 3 ideas that were provided through a graphic artist that we have. We work with Visit Las Cruces. They do things like this on a very regular basis. And so they had a lot of great input to help us with. And they were a great liaison with us to the graphic artist. Now, I'm not going to read through all of this, but it was absolutely stunning how consistent the results of the poll were. And frankly, by by my rough math is pretty much a 4-to-1 margin, everyone preferred, or most people preferred, number 3, which, believe me, makes my job so much easier, because it's not sort of, okay, then we got to do a runoff election or anything like that. So with that, we will say the ayes or the 3s have it. Okay, so this is our new airport logo, and frankly, we are absolutely thrilled about this. It covers all of the bases that we were looking for. It's simple, it's clean, it tells who we are, it uses an iconic image, which is our Organ Mountains, and it has action in it. It has motion, and most importantly, it has upward motion, because that's what we're doing. We're taking off. We are moving forward. That's what this is intended to do. And so, Mr. Chair, it is with absolute tremendous amount of delight that I present this and unveil this logo to you and the Airport Advisory Board, and to anyone watching on YouTube. You will start seeing this all over the place. We're going to start using it even on things like, just like our agendas. But what we see more broadly is part of a marketing campaign that excites people about coming here. Part of a merchandising campaign. Let's have it on hats and shirts and mugs and pens and pencils and gliders and everything else. But the biggest part of this is it's going to have a unifying effect for us. As I mentioned at the outset, it was overwhelmingly preferred by those, and I'll just point out too, it was the black and white version that was overwhelmingly approved. And I got a lot of questions like, oh, what is it going to look like in color? Well, here's what it looks like in color. And I'm a little biased, but I got to tell you, to me, this just leaps off the page, even in the black and white version. So we're very excited about this, and we wanted to make sure that we do a proper introduction of it to you all as the board. And then also what we are working on is, hopefully in conjunction with a ribbon cutting that we're looking at trying to set up, probably do a virtual ribbon cutting. Once our once our GA apron is done, we want to do a ribbon cutting and really hopefully do a great job at using this new logo as a centerpiece for that event. So with that, Mr. Chair, I don't have anything more to say except that we're very excited about this and very excited about the direction this is heading.
Any questions? So that's supposed to be a representation of what the organs look like?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody have any comments? We'll move on to the next item.
I don't see any hands raised, sir, so I guess we're good.
LRU Airport Action Plan. Remember some time ago, a member of the guests at the meeting questioned whether we were following the existing master plan, which Andy correct us is called an Airport Action Plan. And at a prior meeting, we asked Andy just to give us a quick update. He did advise us at the meeting that the action plan was on the airport webpage, but that he
I believe we lost Chair Darden. Mr. Palmer, would you be able to step in and keep the meeting going?
I can hear you, Andy, for what it's worth. I don't know if anybody else can.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry about that.
Sorry.
I don't know where Mr. Darden was going with that comment. I was following him, but I'm not sure where he was going with that.
No problem. I'll hop in to sort of keep the flow going. So first of all, what you see on the screen before you is where is the website, and I forward this on to everybody, and I believe I included it in the in the agenda as well. So because there was a question as to the accessibility of the master plan or the action plan for review, and it is available on the website. So I wanted to first address that. The second,
Hey, man, I can't hear a thing.
I'm sorry. Hello? Are you still there, sir? Are we still there with
I'm still here. I don't know about anybody else.
looks like everybody else is still there. Well, I'll keep going in my explanation, and then hopefully I do see that Mr. Palmer is still, Vice Chair Palmer is still on there, but hopefully Chair Darden will be able to rejoin us. So anyway, the other part of the question was, what are we doing to actually implement the plan? Are we implementing the plan? And I believe at that meeting, and if I didn't state it at the meeting, I will state it now emphatically, 100% yes, we are absolutely following this plan. And I just want to make that abundantly clear for everyone here in attendance and for moving forward. So if anybody asks you, are we following the plan? The absolute 100% answer is yes. Now what I'm doing is I'm going through the plan and I'm putting together basically a spreadsheet that we are going to continue to use to track how we're implementing that plan. And what I can do is I could certainly make that available to the board and to anybody else who wants to see that. But I want to, we did something similar when I was working downtown, and ultimately the plan that we had, we implemented about 70% of that plan before we moved on to an update. And so I want to sort of get a gauge of where we're at. I want to get a gauge of where we're at with that, and provide that as feedback to you all. So I'll be putting that report together. I actually am putting it together, and I'll have it wrapped up here hopefully quite soon. The other part of the question was, and hopefully you can also still see my screen here, is are we ready for an update? What might we be? What is our current status? And in a review of the master plan, what are some things that could be potentially missing? And so what I've done here is just sort of put an outline together of some of the issues that I have found in exploring the plan, and I just want to kind of go over them not necessarily in great detail, but I want to go over it. So chapter 1 is usually your existing inventory. And in particular, this airspace discussion right here, particularly dealing with the MOAs, the military operation areas, their impacts on our local airways and our local approaches was a very big topic. And so, so that type of discussion is not in our current master plan, and it really needs to be, because we do have some, potentially some significant issues with that. Another, when we move on into forecast, I'm sorry, and then we have environmental issues that that certainly need to be addressed in a little bit more clarity and really sort of woven in together and explained clearly through the master plan process. Chapter 2 is all about forecasting. The current action plan forecasting is based off of 2008 data. And so as we know, 2008 was a few years ago. And so it's important that we go back and do new forecasting. The other thing that we recognized is that there have been several significant things that have happened, several significant events, as well as new players in the area that were not accounted for. For instance, City Council has 2 very clear directives for the airport. One is look at reestablishing passenger air service. That needs to be forecasted. That needs to be part of the forecast. Second is they want us to achieve at least 20,000 enplanements. That absolutely has to be in the forecast. That will change not only the number of aircraft coming in and out, but also the type. So we need to do those things. Plus, as mentioned before, we've had, we have to address some potential changes in military activity. Also, the NMSU PSL program is seems to be gaining some more momentum, and there's a lot of focus on that from New Mexico State. And then, of course, we have the spaceport. And as we've been following the news of the spaceport, it looks like they are very, very close to, certainly much closer than they ever have been, to actually conducting their flights, their regular flight activity. So those all have to be included in the forecast. How do all of those activities impact us either directly or indirectly? Then, once we have a better understanding, that has to feed into our facility requirements, which is chapter 3. How do we prioritize what we need on the airfield? How do we prioritize things like hangar development and other types of development on the airfield? What do we look at the land side? What are we going to need out, whether it's on property that is available, that is airport property, or property in the adjacent industrial park? What do we need out there? How do we address that? How do we address parking? All of these are really big questions that need to be looked at in a master plan update. And then, of course, all of this feeds down into what are our preferred alternatives? How do these things impact the way that we prioritize our runway, taxiway improvements, our terminal area, all those types of things? Those need to feed in, definitely need to feed into the consideration of our alternatives in chapter 4. And then finally, one of the things that really is basically the most important thing, and I know that in speaking with several of you, you know, in offline conversations, how do we fund this? How do we implement it? How do we pay for it? And what we want to do is we want to get into a much deeper discussion about issues like right here. How do we achieve financial sustainability? That is actually a requirement through the FAA as part of our grant assurances. If we get money from the FAA, they're telling us we need to figure out how we can achieve financial sustainability. And then what are other financing options that we have? Because GRT or FAA or whatever, those are finite resources rather than, you know, certainly we need to continue to be going after those funding sources, and that we don't take those off the table. But what else is available for us to create these financing tools to be able to achieve these alternatives? So, like I said, this is just an outline. There's a lot of, these are, I wouldn't even say this is the bones of what, this is like the beginning of the bones that needs to be addressed at the master plan update level. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to provide it to you all as an example of why I feel so strongly about the fact that we need to address these things in a master plan update. So with that, Mr. Chair, I know a couple of people have maybe fallen off the call and are now back. I will send this out in an email as a follow-up, along with the all of the other requested information from this meeting. But Mr. Chair, that's this. I think these are beyond significant needs that we have to address in the master plan, and they really demonstrate how I think how we need to move our airport forward. So with that, Chair Darden, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Looks like, okay, yeah, so Chair Darden, looks like also Vice Chair Palmer has a question as well.
No, I don't have a question. I don't see John back, so I figured I'd have to continue on here.
Okay.
So I unmuted myself. If that must have caused a hand raise. But anyway, well, thank you, Andy, for that presentation. And
Can you hear me now?
Oh, okay, John.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, we can hear you. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. If you had a question, go ahead. It seems like technology got the better of me, and my laptop all of a sudden went into an update and shut down. So I'm on my telephone, so you probably can't see me till I can figure out how to do that. Go ahead. Any questions regarding that? And
looks like yeah, Member Clark has a question.
Go ahead.
You're on mute, Jerry.
I don't really have a question. I went and looked at the master plan, and I was appalled at the master plan. And I felt like that the airport itself is far beyond the master plan, particularly in the facilities development and those sorts of things. So when you put up this proposed master plan update, it fell right into what I was thinking, that there is a big need to update that. If we were just following that master plan now, I would just want to slash my wrist and turn over the airport, because there's no growth to it. And there's no outlook of a future dynamic airport. What you're listing here, I would really support. I'd like to participate in. But the old master plan, to me, looks dead.
I appreciate your feedback. Let's see here. I appreciate your feedback, Member Clark. I'll say this, from staff's perspective, it certainly is basically what we have right now is our current plan, and so we are following it. I agree wholeheartedly with your assessment that we need a plan that sort of now mirrors our logo. We're moving up, we're progressing, and in an analysis of the plan, I mean, these were, again, I don't think this represents everything that we need to address. I think it's the biggest issues that are there that we need to address, certainly. And I would look forward to going through this exercise. The one thing I will say is, I have requested funding from New Mexico DOT. We have not received a positive response back yet from them. So funding could be an issue. But staff, we will we will leave no stone unturned as far as looking for funding to accomplish this, because the time is now. We really need to do it now, especially with all of the activity that we see going on and the potential for us to be a part of it and to lead the way as well. So thank you.
Are there any other comments? All right, then moving on to public input. Any member of the public wish to make a presentation, please raise your hand or let Andy know.
Mr. Chair, I don't see any of our guests with their hand raised, so I think we're ready to move on.
All right, board member comments, suggestions. I believe that we already had a comment or suggestion just now that we needed to move forward on the action plan. Any other board member comments? We need to put that on the whiteboard, Andy, so we can begin to move forward on that suggestion and comment. Any other comments or suggestions from the board members other than that, plus getting our minutes correct? Any other questions? Anybody has any suggestions? Go ahead and check and see and let me know if anybody has got their hands raised or unmuted themselves.
I don't see any of that, Mr. Chair. I think we're ready to move.
Future presentation and discussion items. Does any member of the board have, other than the action plan, which we obviously we need to do something with, does any member of the board have a future presentation or discussion item that you would like us to add to this? I've been keeping my own list, been trying to make sure that the minutes, that our meetings as we move forward with the agendas reflect what board members have asked to discuss. Anything anybody would like to discuss at a future meeting?
I don't see any hands raised, Mr. Chair, but I do have a couple of items that I want to make sure that I want to share with you all as future items. I'm hoping that by the time we get to August, that we can perhaps have a presentation, at least a presentation on some a preliminary draft of the airport landscaping plan. I'd like to have that on there. And also, I will bring back, as stated, I will bring back the information that I'm working on to assess how we're doing in implementing the action plan. I'll have that as a future item. Those are two that I definitely want to see on future meetings, Mr. Chair.
I'd be interested in knowing some presentation on how this pandemic has affected the businesses on the airport, positively or negatively. I assume it's negative. We need to have an understanding as a board where the airport needs to go and how far back we may have regressed if in fact we have regressed. I don't know. I know the two FBOs will have an idea about how much traffic we've had versus how much traffic they would normally expect this time of year. I don't know about the charters that usually come in. Presume that's probably an issue for the sale of fuel and tie downs and the like. So I'd be curious to see where we are, and also where we are in terms of available hangar space and what the city's thoughts might be in terms of adding more hangar space.
Okay. Mr. Chair, it looks like Member Clark has a comment.
Mr.
Yeah,
Clark?
Mr. Chair, I'd like you to ask Andy to provide some sort of paper or written report from the assessment team that was doing the new air carrier activity. We were promised something back in June. I know that we've had the virus issue, but if you've made a presentation to the city already, I think we ought to be able to see it too.
Yes, sir. I will get that distributed. And Mr. Chair, if you would like, they probably would be available to give a presentation on our next meeting. I can double check that with them, but I'll follow up for sure.
All right, well, I think it's important, and Mr. Clark got a good suggestion, has a good suggestion. Any other comments from the board? Yes, I
Looks
see.
like-
Mr. Privet?
Yeah, representing Air Methods, I can just say that our flights are down more than 40% from the pandemic.
Wow.
Well, I think all of us are, I think it's affected a lot of people, and I don't know what we can do, but if there's anything we can do as a board, it would be appropriate for us to know and have a presentation, and then we can talk about what can be done to assist our own airport community as well as the city of Las Cruces in terms of airport traffic and the revenue that it generates to the city, or should generate to the city.
Mr. Chair, it looks like member Irick has a comment.
Ms. Irick?
I just wanted to chime in on the reduction of fuel sales. We're starting to bounce back a little bit, but we were hurt pretty significantly by the loss of charters and the GA stuff because of the pandemic. We are currently at about 40% less than we were year to date last year.
Okay.
Y'all hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard you. So we're hearing pretty consistently, at least the two board members who are involved in business on the airfield, business is down about 40%. I don't know where Southwest is, or the other businesses that are there, flight training and the like. But it would be an opportunity for a future presentation, and perhaps if we have some amelioration on the COVID requirements by the mayor and council, and I'll leave it to the mayor and council as opposed to the governor, because we answer the mayor and council, and they are the ones that we need to address. But if you can provide us with information that perhaps we can then make recommendations through our council member that would assist the future economic development of the airport, that would be, and the businesses within it would be appropriate.
And Chair Garten, actually, Councilor Flores has her hand up.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'll go mute.
Thank you, Chair Darden, and thank you, Member Clark, for your comment, and thank you, Mr. Hume, for allowing me to speak. I just want to clarify that the presentation that was made yesterday, Mr. Clark, was not to the city per se. I think that when you say city, you think, oh, it's the entire city council and everybody in connection. It was presented to the Economic Development Policy Review Committee. And at yesterday's meeting, members of there are different, let's see, there's only 3 council members there, so no decisions are made at all. It's more of a presentation, an informational presentation, input by the ex officio members is accepted. There are community members such as Debbie Moore from the Las Cruces, the Greater Las Cruces Chamber of Commerce, Devin Lopez from the Mesilla Valley Economic Development Alliance, and the like. So these are all, it's more of the presentation wasn't to make any decisions or to in any way decisions or no action was taken. That's my point. It was just presented to 3 council members. And then recommendations are taken by the Economic Development Director and and then perhaps made to the city manager and to the city council based on the presentation. So just a point of clarification as to what the function is of that. And it wasn't, quote, a city, quote, presentation. I think it'd be wonderful if it was, but I don't know how that works. That's something between Mr. Hume, Dr. Martinez, and the powers that be at City Hall. We are there to navigate or orchestrate or to make sure that policy is created and implemented. I just want to make that clarification. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hume.
Thank you, Counselor. And I just, I think it was Ted that may have asked for how to get to the link, and Mr. Hume will provide us that. I just on another monitor went to YouTube, and then I typed in under search CLC TV, CLC like City of Las Cruces TV all together, and there were a number of different little videos. One of them is ours, is ongoing, and then there's Economic Development PRC, which is what I presume everybody was talking about 23 hours ago, so yesterday.
Yes, you're correct. That is exactly what it was, Mr. Darden. You're correct.
Right. As far as, but if you could please pass that information on to the rest of the council, the board, Mr. Hume, so that they can just click and see the presentation. The next meeting is.
Did mention Mr. Darden early on. I don't know if you were already on board, but he did mention that would be forwarded to, the link would be forwarded to the entire board here.
All right, thanks. And any other future presentation or discussion items? Anybody have their hand raised, Mr. Hume?
No, sir.
Next meeting is August 20, 2020. I suggest anybody on their laptops or their PCs, such as me, go to your settings and tell the dang thing not to do updates in the middle of a presentation. Can be aggravating for the user, which is me, but in any event, that's live and learn. With that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
And thank you, Mr. Darden. Thank you, Andy. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Dan.
Bye.
Say hi to Tanya.
I will.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.